Just wanted to make a video because I've never made a video like this before, but I guess I wanted to, in video talk about what it is I do. This is my book. I self-published it on Lulu. This is actually just a prototype. I don't have an actual copy. The actual ones you can get are not as thick as this. The reason being is because the margins in this are much bigger, hence why it's a prototype. I've messed up. This is a book I spent, I'm not entirely sure. I can say 2 years would be a good time. I did the illustrations. This is an owl I drew, which I don't know what you would call that. A tattoo, I guess. Very tattooish design, an owl. This is my, little symbol logo thing, which doesn't really make as much sense anymore since I changed my alias to BMR Williams. Spent a lot of time on this book, and well, not much else to say about it, I guess. My fantasies about, respect for the genre more than anything. Yeah, I didn't really push it to sell very many copies. I don't know how many it sold, really. Under 30, more than likely. Haven't really found an agent to try and publish it out in the world, I guess. But yeah, this is it. I never really considered myself to be a great drawer or anything, but I still did the illustrations. I put a lot of effort into getting better at drawing to be able to do that. Here's one. This is the map. I did do the map also. The only thing I didn't do art-wise is this right here, which is known as the Uritan ring. Basically, it's the 5 animals which created, well, they didn't create the universe, but they created what's in the universe. The first one being Wolfgar, and the second being Sanguinem, who is responsible for like fire and things of that nature. Then there's Ophrah, who's responsible for water, and Algernon, who is responsible for making the earth and stones and things of that nature, and Octavius, who is the one most mentioned in my stories, who is responsible for several things. Actually, he is responsible for winds, but he also has some other special powers which make him a little bit more unique than the other ones. Then there's Wolfgar, who binds all things together. Because of him, things are bound, like gravity and things like that. If it weren't for him, the other 4 would be useless. They also have a lot of special powers and things like that that I won't go into. But they're the very big part of the mythology behind my world. And the owl, which the owls were created by, well, I can't say they were created by him, but it makes more sense to just say he created them. He created the owls, which are the enemies, I guess, in my book. But I did spend 2 years on this book. However, by contrast, this is just one story in a massive world that I've been working on for almost 5 years now. So just to give you contrast of what I mean, just one story. Over here is my written work, my notes that I've done by hand. Here's, I don't remember, I'd have to count, around 17 notebooks. Most of them are completely filled out, and and this one is where I mention the lore that goes on in here, just to give you an idea of just how little this book is compared to the rest of the world. If I can find it. The amount of notes. Sorry, just gonna flip through this. Okay. Okay, so from here, one page. One page. This story is equivalent to one page and all of these notebooks. So it's pretty big. There's obviously more than one page, clearly. I mean, in here there's about 100 pages, but that's dedicated more to crafting the story into a full-fledged story, not so much lore and whatnot. That does not mean that every page is an entire worth of story. I mean, it's definitely more than that. This is my second book, by the way, but it's the first one that I finished to the state of where it was printable. My next novel, however, is going to be a series, and it's going to cover, I'm just going to set this down somewhere for right now. It's going to cover a lot more than that. So my next novel is going to be what I call a princess story. And my friend is being obnoxious. It's going to be a princess story. So I have a good deal about it in here. All of this. Geez. Am I missing one? It's half of this. Okay. All of this, and it's also going to be all of this. So that's a lot. Mostly just like developing the world around that and all that good stuff. Because I have a lot of respect for backstory, even though a lot of people will say that, you shouldn't get carried away with world building and backstory. That's not necessarily what I'm doing exactly. To me, it's more like trying to figure out why things are happening in the world, and it gives me a lot more a greater view of what's happening in the world. And also, I'm not just going out to make books. My intent is to make a world, so that requires world building. And whether or not everything in the world will ever be in a book and information accessible to the public, I don't know. That's my goal for it to be one day. Here I have, this is a map in which my next series of books will take place on. Not necessarily this whole thing, but this is the continent I'll take place mostly around here. And this is a different continent in which I have all of the little territories drawn up in greater detail and whatnot. In my book, this one, the story takes place around here. Not there, I'm sorry, here. Yeah, so an interesting about that was that when I was fleshing out this map initially, or before I started fleshing it out, this was probably the most boring place I could think of on the entire globe. But after fleshing it out more thoroughly, I began to see that it was quite a bit more important than I originally thought. So important that it went from a short story to an entire book, and one that I am very proud of. Now, I don't think most people really care about what I do, and that's okay, because I don't expect people to care. I just want to create something that will make people happy, and my writing isn't the happiest level of writing. It's kind of sad, and it's kind of complicated. I like a lot of archaic words and things that you might see in much older writing. I don't know very many authors who use that kind of writing. Like, I don't know if I can find an example in here. The dialogue is, well, whatever. I use a lot of like thous and these and things like that, but not throughout the entire thing. I use it sparingly, because I think that using those words has a lot of power in them. And like the word thou is a powerful word that should only be used dramatically, or with sorrow or sadness or with anger. It's not something that you should use when the character is just speaking, like I am now. In my world, people who use this language believe that the language is a sign of respect. I guess you wouldn't refer to someone as thou if you didn't know them. So that's my book. I also have it on Amazon for 99 cents. You can also buy a paper edition for about $14, I think. Did all the formatting, because I'm poor. Don't have much money to pay someone to do formatting. But despite all this, books and stuff, this is just what's handwritten. I have a bunch of stuff typed up as well. I have my manuscripts and all that sorts of good stuff. I have no idea how many words there are, but I'm gonna guess it's over 1 million. Yeah, I'll keep writing, and maybe one day someone will care about it more. I mean, there are people who like it and stuff, and I have a few number of friends that care enough to talk about it with me and read what I write, and I appreciate that. But it is what it is. But how many more years of work it will take, I'll be willing to do it. It's what I do, and it's what I like to do. So, yeah, thanks for watching this. If you went through all 14 minutes of this video, that's kind of crazy.